Thank you for joining our Open Doors annual data release. This year we celebrate 75 years of the Open Doors report, and once again the numbers show that the United States is the top host of international students. The report also highlights our collaboration with the U.S. Department of State and the importance of our joint commitment to promoting international educational exchange. Now, the number of globally mobile students continues to climb, projected to increase from 6.9 million today to more than 10 million by the end of this decade. For U.S. colleges and universities faced with declining domestic enrollment, such growth offers a great opportunity. Unlike schools in other nations, U.S. institutions have ample capacity to welcome these students and benefit from the knowledge, energy, and revenue they bring. The landscape for international exchanges is dramatically changing elsewhere. In other major host countries, nearly all have adopted cuts and caps over the past year, and for the first time in the history of our Open Doors survey, the U.S. may stand alone in the world in terms of our willingness and capacity to host more international students. And we all benefit from the State Department's well-established programs, including Education USA and the Fulbright program, to ensure that information and access reach across the world we share. We also must continue our advocacy for U.S. students to study abroad. Gaining new experiences through in-person exchange fosters cultural competence, and the demand for such programs as the Gilman Program underscores how important our students think these opportunities are for their personal and career development. In an age where data shapes everything from business to public policy, we thank our U.S. higher education institutions for maintaining both the quality and the integrity of the data they share with us each year to make Open Doors possible, and to make it a gauge of where we are headed for the next 75 years. Now over to Senior Bureau Official for Educational and Cultural Affairs, Scott Weinhold at the Department of State.
Hello, everyone. On behalf of the U.S. Department of State's Bureau of Educational and Cultural Affairs, and in partnership with the U.S. Department of Education, welcome to International Education Week 2024. The week's theme of Explore invites students, scholars, teachers, and institutions to explore exchange programs, fields of study, languages, and cultures. Throughout my time as a Foreign Service Officer at postings around the world, I have seen firsthand the power of international education. The U.S. government is committed to supporting educational exchanges. We invest in people from diverse backgrounds to build a robust community, stronger economy, and vibrant societies that are inclusive and forward-looking. The State Department works with federal agencies, higher education institutions, non-governmental organizations, other governments, and the private sector to support international students and American students going abroad. We will continue to strengthen these efforts in the years ahead, consistent with the U.S. government's joint statement of principles in support of international education. Thank you to all the higher education representatives for your commitment to recruiting and supporting international students to study with us. Your efforts ensure a productive educational experience and make them feel welcome in the United States. I am also grateful to overseas institutions hosting American students. Study abroad is crucial for preparing American students to compete and collaborate in an interconnected world, and we see increased civic engagement by Americans who study abroad. Lastly, I'd like to extend a special thank you to Dr. Alan Goodman and our partners at the Institute of International Education, or IIE, for this year's Open Doors report, the trusted annual source that outlines international education trends. This year is an important anniversary marking 75 years of the Open Doors report. Congratulations to Dr. Goodman and the entire IIE team. We are also celebrating 25 years of our own Education USA network, the official source on U.S. higher education. Education USA helps connect students and institutions, and we are pleased that the United States continues to be the top study destination worldwide, with a record number of international students studying in the U.S. today. The experience of international students studying in the United States or Americans studying abroad not only shapes the lives of individuals, but the future of our interconnected world. The relationships formed between U.S. and international students today will foster cooperation in business and trade, science and innovation, and between governments for many years to come. On the occasion of International Education Week, or IEW, I encourage both international and American students and scholars to explore your future through international education. Thank you to all who support these opportunities. Happy International Education Week. I would like to share videos from Secretary of State Blinken and Secretary of Education Cardona celebrating International Education Week.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us for International Education Week. Studying in another country is an unforgettable experience. The people you meet, the cultures you encounter, the perspectives you absorb enrich your life long after you return home. I found this out for myself when I lived abroad as a teenager. And every year, hundreds of thousands of young people have the same transformative adventures, as Americans spending time overseas or as international students coming to the United States. International education also makes our country stronger, fuels our economy, with international students contributing over $50 billion to our communities last year. It brings new ideas to American universities, laboratories, businesses. It helps people around the world better understand America and our values. This past academic year, a record 1.1 million international students studied in the United States. And they're coming from a wider range of countries than ever before. Developed and developing, large and small, traditional allies, new partners. The State Department and our partners are committed to expanding opportunities to study in the United States and to diversifying the ranks of students that we send overseas. We've made it easier for international students to apply for visas. Our network of Education USA centers is helping students in over 175 countries and territories decide which American schools are the best fit. Education USA has already supported tens of millions of students as it marks its 25th anniversary, with many more to come. We're also helping American undergraduates from all backgrounds study abroad through initiatives like the State Department's Gilman Program and expanded recruiting at HBCUs and other institutions. In the nearly 4 years that I've traveled the globe as Secretary of State, I'm always struck by how many people tell me what their time studying in the United States has meant for their own lives, from young entrepreneurs to heads of state. Whether you're an American or someone considering an exchange program in the United States, I hope you'll have the chance to study abroad as well. I'm confident it will be the experience of a lifetime. Thank you.
Hello, I'm U.S. Secretary of Education Miguel Cardona. It's my pleasure to wish you a happy International Education Week. For 25 years, the Department of Education has used this week to celebrate the transformational power of international education. Today's young people are growing up in a world that's more interconnected than ever before. If we want students to succeed in the 21st century, then we must raise the bar and provide them with greater access to international education. International studies and language education not only help our students understand the world, but they create opportunities for them to explore the beautiful and diverse cultures that shape the United States of America. That's one reason I'm so proud of our department's efforts to elevate multilingualism. Today, for the first time ever, students in all 50 states, in Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico, have the opportunity to earn a seal of biliteracy. That gives them a competitive edge, not only in college, but in the career and beyond. Cross-cultural communication is a skill that can serve our students wherever they go. And international education provides our students with richer pathways to global engagement, from cultural exchange and study abroad programs to opportunities to engage with talented people from around the world who come to the United States every year to pursue their own educational and career goals. At the Department of Education, we know that global engagement makes a difference. It makes a difference in their lives and in their school experience. That's why we must work to open more doors to international education for more students, especially for those who lack means to participate in privately run programs. Through the department's Title VI and Fulbright Hays Awards, students, scholars, and educators can deepen their expertise in languages and cultures while becoming part of a pipeline of experts on regions critical to the U.S. national security. The department's joint statement of principles in support of international education strongly encourages our communities to welcome international students and teachers, giving us an opportunity to learn about other cultures right here at home. The world is for our students to explore. Let's empower them with even greater opportunities to engage and contribute to it. Thank you, and happy International Education Week.
Hello, and welcome to the Open Doors 2024 annual data release. We're pleased to be here at the Institute of International Education to share the latest Open Doors findings with you. As has already been mentioned, this year we celebrate 75 years of the Open Doors publication, which provides the most comprehensive and historic analysis of international student flows to and from the United States. Since the first publication in 1949, then called Education for One World, we have been grateful for the reporting provided by the U.S. higher education community. We have also been collaborating with the U.S. Department of State on this project since 1972. And for the last 20 years, we have released the Open Doors findings to kick off International Education Week, reflecting on the important role that Open Doors plays in this event each year. We also want to highlight that this year, in honor of the 75th anniversary of Open Doors, we have awarded Seals of Excellence to 642 U.S. higher education institutions who reported to Open Doors in 1949 and in 2024. Open Doors benefits from the consistent, robust responses we receive each year from colleges and universities around the country. Today, we will present data on international students at U.S. higher education institutions, U.S. students studying abroad, and trends in global student mobility. Let us start with data on international students at U.S. colleges and universities. In 2024, the International Student Census was sent to nearly 3,000 accredited U.S. colleges or universities that reported hosting international students. From 1949 to today, institutions from every state and territory, public and private, ensure that the most comprehensive picture of inbound mobility is captured. Open Doors 2024 includes international students attending classes full-time or part-time on U.S. college and university campuses, as well as students pursuing post-study work opportunities on optional practical training, or OPT. Finally, we collected data from U.S. colleges and universities for the past academic year. And now, to the data for 2023-24. The total number of international students in the U.S. reached a historic record of 1,126,690 students. With the highest total in Open Doors history and a 7% increase from the previous year, the U.S. remains the top host of international students worldwide. Looking back at 75 years of Open Doors, the increase in international student numbers has been significant. In 1949, the total number of international students in the U.S. was 25,464. I want to point out the rate at which international student numbers have increased. While it took over 50 years for us to get from 25,000 to 500,000 students, it has taken half that time, or 25 years, for us to get to 1 million. And 2023-24 is the 7th time that we have had over 1 million students studying in the U.S. Looking at the last 6 years in particular, The height of international student totals in the United States was in 2018-19 at 1,095,299 students. The COVID-19 pandemic resulted in a 15% decrease year-on-year in 2021. Just 3 years since, the rate of international student growth has increased by 4% in 2022 and 12% in 2023. The year-on-year change in international students this year was 7%, or approximately 70,000 students. I would like to now look at the specific academic levels of international students. For the third year in a row, the largest group of international students in the U.S. were graduate students. 502,291 international graduate students studied at U.S. higher education institutions in 2023-24, an 8% increase. It is important to note that this builds on the 21% increase last year and the 17% increase the year before. The number of international undergraduates reflected a moderate 1% decline, with a total of 342,875 students. Undergraduate decreases during the COVID-19 pandemic are still cycling through the four-year system. The non-degree international student population decreased by 12% to 38,742. After robust increases last year of 28%, we noted some stabilization in this group of students, who usually travel to the U.S. for short-term study or intensive English programs. And finally, the number of students staying in the United States to gain work experience on OPT was at a record high, growing by 22% to 242,782 students. The growth for the past 2 years in OPT is attributed to the continued rise in graduate student numbers and the overall post-pandemic rebound in mobility. We include OPT in our international student total because it is an important component in an international student's academic experience, supported by their college or university, and provides a work opportunity for students to gain practical experience in their field of study. The last enrollment trend I want to focus on is new international students, or those students studying at their college or university for the first time. In 2023-24, there were 298,705 new international students enrolled in classes on U.S. campuses. Mapping the trajectory of new enrollments, there was a sharp decrease in 2020-21 due to the COVID-19 pandemic, followed by an 80% increase in 2022 and an increase of 14% in 2023. As new enrollments stabilize with a modest 0.1% increase this year, we note that these numbers have settled at high pre-pandemic levels. The U.S. continued to be the destination of choice for international students from over 210 places of origin. India, China, and South Korea were the top 3 places of origin in 2023-24. When we expand to the top 25 places of origin, we see that we have students coming to the U.S. from all world regions. Thanks to the continued outreach efforts of the Education USA Network and institutions throughout the U.S., we continue to see higher participation from students around the world. Let's look closer now at our top 3 places of origin: India, China, and South Korea. India was the leading place of origin for the first time since 2009, with 331,602 students, reflecting a 23% increase and building on the 35% increase the year before. Since the COVID-19 pandemic, the total number of international students from India has nearly doubled. The majority of students from India are studying at the graduate level or pursuing OPT, and India continues to be the largest source of students on OPT in the United States. China was the second largest place of origin with 277,398 international students, a 4% decrease. The total number of students from China has decreased in the last 3 years, primarily at the undergraduate level. In 2023-24, most Chinese students were pursuing graduate study, followed by undergraduates and OPT. South Korea was the third place of origin of international students with 43,149 students. The majority of students from South Korea study at the undergraduate level. When we look further at our top 2 places of origin, we note that the makeup of these populations differs and has differed over time. In the 2010s, for example, a significant increase in the number of undergraduate students from China drove the rapid increase in the U.S. total international student population. Since the COVID-19 pandemic, the number of undergraduate students from China has decreased, though it still remains the primary source of international undergraduates. India's undergraduate numbers have grown incrementally in comparison. The graduate student picture is more varied. There have always been more graduate students coming from India to study in the U.S. than undergraduates, and the growth in Indian graduates in the last 3 years has propelled India to be the number 1 sender of international students overall, surpassing China. International graduate numbers from China have stabilized since the pandemic. Among the top 4 regions that send students to the U.S., we have several places of origin that have reached all-time highs. Asia is the top region of origin, with increases noted across South and Central Asia. In Latin America and the Caribbean, international student totals across Central and South America are at all-time highs. And finally, notable is a 13% increase in Sub-Saharan Africa. International students make up 6% of all students in higher education, close to 19 million, and there continues to be substantial capacity for campuses to host more international students. International students are welcome to study at U.S. colleges and universities across the country, and 44 states experienced increases in their international student totals in 2023-24. California, New York, and Texas continue to be the top 3 destinations of international students. We see that international students are hosted in every region across the country. Let us move now to the fields of study that international students pursue. In 2023-24, over half of all international students studied in the STEM fields. Math and computer science continue to grow as the leading field of study for international students in 2023-24. Increasing by 17%. 1 in 4 international students in the U.S. is studying math and computer science. The total number of international students pursuing engineering grew by 4% as well. And as shown on this slide, other fields of study have increased as well. This is great news, as it indicates that international students benefit from the wide array of fields and degrees available in the United States. We do see a difference when we break down these fields of study by undergraduates versus graduates. Undergraduate students prefer business and management as their field of study, while graduates mainly study math and computer science and engineering. As a result, when we compare students in STEM at the undergraduate level versus the graduate level, we see a difference in the overall comparison. Finally, international students are major contributors to the U.S. economy. According to the U.S. Department of Commerce, international students contributed $50 billion to the U.S. economy in 2023, primarily through funding of their education. Over half of international students contributed non-U.S. funding, and particularly personal funds, to fund their education. This number is high for undergraduate students who often finance their own education. Before I conclude, I want to touch on some of the findings from the Fall 2024 International Student Enrollment Snapshot. This year, we received data from over 690 U.S. higher education institutions, a subset of the institutions we survey as part of Open Doors. The data presents international student enrollment patterns for the current 2024-25 academic year. I want to highlight 3 key findings from the fall 2024 snapshot. Our first finding is that in fall 2024, the number of international students continues to increase by 3%. This signals a continued rise of international students at U.S. colleges and universities and builds on the 3-year increases already noted in Open Doors. Second, the number of international students is growing for undergraduates and students on OPT, while graduate numbers have stabilized. It is important to note that even with a 2% decrease, graduate numbers are still at their highest rates. And finally, international student outreach and recruitment continues to be a priority for U.S. institutions. 84% of institutions indicated that financial support for international student recruitment was the same or higher than in the previous year. And institutions continue to prioritize outreach and recruitment in key places of origin, including India, Vietnam, China, Ghana, and Nigeria, for prospective undergraduate and graduate students. We thank our 10 higher education snapshot survey partners who ensure that we receive consistent responses from U.S. colleges and universities each fall. I'm now pleased to introduce Julie Baer, who will be sharing data on U.S. students studying abroad.
Thank you, Mirka. I'm pleased to present some of the Open Doors 2024 key findings on U.S. students studying abroad. Before delving into the data, I want to highlight the story of the evolution of Open Doors data on U.S. study abroad to meet the needs of an evolving field. Over the past 75 years, we've updated our survey techniques to collect and provide the field with the most comprehensive data set. Our survey collection began by directly surveying overseas universities. But since 1986, our study abroad numbers have reflected information from U.S. institutions about the number of students studying abroad for academic credit. Over the past 40 years, we've continued to recognize that there are many ways that U.S. students participate in education abroad. As such, we began collecting data through Project Atlas on the number of students pursuing full degrees abroad. And more recently, our Open Doors data has also collected information on non-credit experiential activities and U.S. students engaged in online global learning. We have expanded our data collection to evolve with the study abroad field and deepen our knowledge of the outbound mobility of U.S. students. Now, what information did we collect on U.S. study abroad in Open Doors 2024? As you can see on this map, we surveyed more than 2,000 accredited colleges and universities across the United States with study abroad programs. Our data collection focuses, as I had just mentioned, on U.S. students enrolled at U.S. higher education institutions who then go abroad for academic credit. We counted students who studied abroad during the 2022-23 academic year, which was from fall 2022 through summer 2023. This is 1 year prior to the year Mirka just referenced for international students. The reason for this time lag is that we need to allow time for students to go abroad, come back home, and then be awarded credit at their U.S. institution. I want to pause here and take that step back to remember where we were during this period of time in 2022 through 2023. During this time, most institutions had resumed study abroad programs, and many destinations had lifted travel restrictions due to COVID-19. In the 2022-2023 academic year, 280,716 U.S. students studied abroad for academic credit. This continues the strong growth of study abroad programming following the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. When we look at the historical trend of U.S. study abroad, it is important to understand the overarching trend as we look to the future. Since the first year of data collection, when just over 48,000 students studied overseas, the number of American students abroad had steadily increased, with more than 347,000 students studying abroad in 2018-19. Now, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, many U.S. higher education institutions temporarily suspended programs, resulting in a 96% decline between 2018-19 and 2020-21. Over the past 2 years, there has been a resounding increase in the number of students studying abroad. In the 2022-23 year, we noted a 49% increase over the prior year's numbers. While numbers are rebounding, they are not yet back to pre-pandemic levels as U.S. higher education institutions work to rebuild programs following the pandemic. In 2022-23, U.S. students studied abroad in more than 180 diverse destinations worldwide, spanning all 7 continents. I want to start with the most popular destinations for study abroad in the 2022-23 academic year. Europe continued to be the predominant regional destination. Reflecting this trend, we see that Italy, the United Kingdom, Spain, and France remained the leading host, with 45% of all students studying in these top 4 destinations. Ireland moved into the 5th most popular destination for the first time. And outside of Europe, we also note that Japan, Costa Rica, and Australia are all within the top 10 destinations. As I expand the map to showcase the more than 180 study abroad destinations worldwide, you can see that U.S. students take advantage of opportunities to study in diverse destinations globally. As study abroad returns to campuses across the United States, we have begun to see some destinations once again reach all-time highs, particularly in Europe and Asia. This year, 7 of the top 25 destinations had record numbers of U.S. students studying abroad: Denmark, Greece, Italy, Japan, Singapore, South Korea, and Switzerland. As study abroad resumed in Asia, we noted a robust rebound to diverse destinations. Japan moved into the 6th leading destination with more than 9,600 students. Singapore entered the top 25 list of destinations, and South Korea surpassed 5,000 students for the first time. Given this upward trajectory, I want to examine the overall regional trends. Before the pandemic in 2018-19, while Europe was the leading regional destination, nearly half of all students went to global majority destinations outside of Europe. Directly following the pandemic, however, we saw a swift rebound, particularly to Europe, reflecting a point in time when many of these destinations had eased travel restrictions and study abroad programming had reopened in the region. With this year's newest data, we noted an uptick in the proportion of students going to all other regional destinations outside of Europe. As travel restrictions eased in Asia and Oceania, we saw particularly strong growth in both regions this year. This is a trend we will continue to watch closely in the years to come. Another metric we have tracked over this same period of time is the duration that students study abroad. Unlike the data by region, which experienced those significant shifts due to the pandemic, we noted that the overall profile for the length of time that students have studied abroad has been remarkably consistent. The majority, 64% of students, studied abroad for short-term durations, which include experiences that are 8 weeks or less during the academic year or over the summer. Approximately 1/3 went abroad for mid-length durations and 2% for long-term durations. I now want to examine the characteristics of U.S. students studying abroad, which is important to understand as U.S. colleges and universities look to diversify opportunities for students in the future. Business and management and the social sciences have long been the most popular majors for students who are pursuing study abroad, and this remains so in the 2022-23 year. Among the STEM fields, the largest proportions went abroad from the physical and life sciences, health professions, and engineering fields. We note that students go abroad from a wide array of majors, and institutions are encouraging students to participate in global opportunities as research continues to show how studying abroad is an enriching, high-impact practice that leads to improved educational and workforce outcomes for students of all majors and backgrounds. The proportion of underrepresented students from diverse racial and ethnic backgrounds studying abroad has grown over the past 20 years. And in the 2022-23 academic year, approximately 34% of students identified as students of color. However, it is important to put these proportions into the broader context of U.S. higher education. As institutions look to the future of study abroad, continued focus in this area is necessary to align with the national U.S. student enrollment trend. When we compare this to the overall U.S. higher education population, 48% of all U.S. students identified as students of color. So we still have work to do to make study abroad opportunities available and accessible to students from all backgrounds. I now want to transition to speak about data on another category of students that we collect in Open Doors, which is the number of U.S. students who received academic credit for online global learning experiences. In addition to the more than 280,000 U.S. students who studied abroad, more than 14,000 students participated in online global learning. The most popular online opportunities included internships and consulting with global companies, courses paired across institutions, and collaborative project-based learning. These virtual educational experiences provide a critical way for students who are not able to travel abroad to gain valuable global insights and perspectives. In addition to 4-credit study abroad, which all of my previous slides focused on, institutions may also offer non-credit study abroad opportunities. In the 2022-23 academic year, more than 300 institutions reported that more than 25,000 U.S. students traveled abroad to participate in non-credit-bearing experiential activities. These non-credit experiences include research or fieldwork opportunities, volunteering, work or internships, conferences, or performing arts trips abroad. Similar to the overall data on 4-credit study abroad, we noted that the number of students engaged in non-credit experiences has rebounded, but is not yet up to pre-pandemic levels. Through our work on Open Doors, we just reported data on the number of students going abroad on 4-credit activities, non-credit activities, as well as online global learning opportunities. In addition, from our work on Project Atlas, we also know that there were more than 80,000 American students going directly to other countries to pursue a full degree. As we showcased at the beginning of this study abroad presentation, these 4 key areas of data collection on global educational experiences build a comprehensive picture of study abroad. Combined, we are able to report that more than 400,000 students engaged in global educational experiences in the 2022-2023 academic year. I will now turn this over to my colleague, Leah Mason, to speak about trends in global student mobility.
Thank you, Julie. Now that we have an understanding of mobility to and from the United States, I would like to look at the broader picture of global student mobility. Project Atlas was created in 2001 to contextualize the Open Doors data and see how it fits in the global picture of other host countries attracting large numbers of international students. Today, Project Atlas has 30 partner organizations that are part of the national data collection in their country and that share with us the information they have on international students coming to their country using the same definition that Open Doors uses. I want to acknowledge that the country data shared by our partners and described in this section of the presentation represents slightly different periods due to variations in national data collection schedules. I want to thank all the Project Atlas partners who shared information about international students and the higher education context in their countries this year. International student mobility has returned in all regions following the COVID-19 pandemic. The UNESCO Institute for Statistics reported that the total number of globally mobile international students has now reached 6.9 million students. Looking at the bars along the bottom of this slide, you can see the growth over time. In 1 decade, the number of international students has risen by 53%. And while the United States has remained the #1 host destination of international students throughout this period, the remaining top hosts have changed over time. Canada, the 7th leading host in 2014, has seen significant growth and is now the 2nd leading host of international students. The United Kingdom, Australia, and France round out the top 5 global hosts of international students in 2024. Looking more closely at the proportion of students hosted by the leading destinations, the top 5 hosts, the United States, Canada, the United Kingdom, Australia, and France once again hosted 50% of international students in Project Atlas reporting year 2024. The United States hosted 16% of the total number of international students, Canada hosted 12%, the United Kingdom 11%, and Australia and France each hosted 6% of all international students. We heard in the Open Doors presentation that India is now the leading sending country of international students to the United States. The increase in the number of students from India seeking a higher education abroad is evident among the top 3 hosts of international students. Indian students are most heavily concentrated in the United States, Canada, and the United Kingdom, driving the growth in these countries while rising in much smaller numbers in other host destinations. Increases in the number of Indian students have occurred at a time when the number of students from China began to decline globally. Here you can see among the top host destinations of students, the United States, Canada, and the United Kingdom, that the numbers of students from China have fallen. As a result, India has also now surpassed China as the leading sending country of international students. The significant growth in the international student population prompts the question, how much capacity does each country have to host international students at their higher education institutions? At what point does a country reach capacity? Looking at the leading host countries, we see that international students continue to comprise an even greater proportion of the total higher education population in most countries. Following a significant increase in the number of international students from Canada this year, 38% of the higher education student population in the country is comprised of international students, prompting new policies and invigorating discussions between the Canadian government and institutions aimed at finding the right balance of enrollment and support for international students. Similar situations are playing out in Australia and the United Kingdom, where international students represent 31% of the total higher education population in Australia and 27% in the United Kingdom. In comparison, international students once again represented only 6% of U.S. higher education institutions' total enrollment. The United States has demonstrated continued capacity to host additional international students, while other leading hosts may be limited by the size of their higher education sector. Before concluding our presentation today, we want to share several resources. We invite you to the Open Doors website to explore, download, and share the Open Doors data. Today, all of the 2024 data has been updated and is available. In addition to our data tables and infographics, the site has state, country, and regional fact sheets. We also want to thank the organizations that made today possible. First and foremost, we want to thank the U.S. Department of State for its continued support of the Open Doors project. Please access the State Department resources noted on this slide to learn more about how you can celebrate the benefits of international education and exchange worldwide during International Education Week and connect with Education USA and USA Study Abroad. Finally, we invite you to continue the conversation. For any press inquiries, please email press@iie.org. To join the conversation on social media, tag your post to ensure that Open Doors remains part of the discussion. We want to thank you for listening today and wish you a pleasant day.